go again?
Oh, no, not again.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Dom, how long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again and again until we're both dead.
Hello, welcome to You've Seen It Before, Movie Reviews Connections of Mind. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is the 7th film in the Mission Impossible film series, of course based on the original TV series from the 60s. It is once again directed by Christopher McQuarrie and once again, of course, stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, once again on a mission to save the world, this time from its biggest threat, and this time, as you may have guessed, it's going to take more than one movie for him to stop it. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first and foremost, but just so you know, there will be some spoilers later on in this review. But first and foremost, let's get into some spoiler-free thoughts on Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Is it a good Mission Impossible movie? Is it a good theater experience? Where does it rank on the Mission Impossible franchise? I would say, once again, this just goes to show that Tom Cruise is a man who apparently, has a death wish in that he wants to go out on doing some of the most death-defying and insane stunts on film, and we are all the better for it. And once he leaves film, one way or the other, it's going to be a sad day for Hollywood and the world at large. Because this film, once again, while it might not have the most spectacular stunts in the Mission Impossible franchise wise, I still think some of the more spectacular ones, like my personal favorite, Ghost Protocol, where he's going on climbing up the Burj Khalifa, is more spectacular. But the fact that they go out of the way, you've seen this on all the marketing, that they really did do these stunts. Tom Cruise really did drive off well, it was a ramp, but in reality, but a cliff on a motorcycle to jump to deploy a parachute, and they really did huck a train off a bridge. That's so much more realism to this series, and it's the kind of thing that movies these days you just don't see anymore outside the Mission Impossible franchise, and that lends it so much more credence. And those are the kind of things that my theater was a little empty, maybe just because it was a Thursday night, but definitely see this in a crowded theater where, see it in IMAX if you can, because that's going to be, these are the kind of things that you want to see in a crowded IMAX theater just for the spectacle of it all. But, so, from that point of view, yes, this movie has definitely got some great stunts and you're going to enjoy it. And also great fight scenes as well. Again, maybe not the most spectacular of the Mission Impossible franchise as a whole, but definitely worth seeing in the theater. So, there's that component out of the way. I wanted to cover that first. But second of all, let's get into the story elements of it and the character elements of it, because I feel like aside from the stunts, the Mission Impossible franchise has run the risk of becoming kind of stale story-wise. Because yes, it is fun to see, Tom Cruise and Simon Pegg and Ving Rhames, bantering with one another over comms during a mission. But what more can you give to the story? And that's what this franchise has needed to evolve more and more over the years. And I feel like they found it in Haley Atwell, because Haley Atwell, she'll always be Peggy Carter to me, but she pulls off a amazing turn as the believable action star alongside Tom Cruise here. So her character is a pickpocket, a very good pickpocket, and that lends another certain dynamic to the series, almost like some of the best heist films, like an Ocean's 11 kind of thing, where those skills can be factored in alongside the more traditional death-defying stunt action persona in Tom Cruise, and their chemistry off each other makes this movie work so well. And whenever those two are together on screen, it's a delight. I'll single out especially a great it is multi-car vehicle spanning car chase through the streets of Rome, and when Cruise and Outlaw are in this. It's just, there's hilarity into it, but there's also great stunts involved. It's a great mixture overall. And you also got, chemistry between other great additions to the franchise. One is Palm Clementif as, I think her name is Paris. They call her Paris in one scene. She's a woman of few words, let's say, in this. And she plays an assassin going after Cruise. And especially during that chase scene in Rome, she's got this manic energy, and she's clearly having the time of her life on this, and that translates to on the screen, and that just brings it to such a fun time watching these scenes. Yes, there's some exposition-heavy moments in between these fun action scenes that can drag on a little bit, but going into this, those kind of par for the course, right? You gotta do these kind of things to set it up so that we can get to the fun action, and that's fine. There's also, like I said, with Grace being an outside of the core IMF team, it does bring up some interesting plot developments or lore building, should I say, with the IMF and this franchise. It gives it more of an identity to the characters. I'm not sure how much of that. I mean, I rewatched all 6 prior Mission Impossibles going into this. I feel like it fits okay into the previous films without being considered a retcon, so to speak, but it does toe that line a little bit. And if you're a diehard fan of the Mission Impossible franchise and you dissect every one of these, you might see some of these developments and be like, does that fit though? But for me, I was not bothered by any of those developments. Another important element that I feel like should be brought up is some people might get turned off by the fact that it does say part 1 on this, and you think, oh, you're only telling half a story here. And yes, in the past, something like a book adaptation, like Harry Potter: Deathly Hallows, or what was it, Mockingjay? Hunger Games, when it's, part 1 and part 2, and that part 1 always felt like, this feels like an incomplete story, because, they're only telling half the book, or whatever. So, that could be a danger with these part 1 and part 2s, and, I feel like we kind of went away from those because, they got done to death in, the early 2010s, and then now we're bringing them back with, Fast X being a 2-parter, and, this being a 2-parter, and we're getting Doom Part 2 here later this year. So, but I feel like Hollywood has more or less learned their lesson, because this is a complete chapter in the story. Yes, there is a to be continuedness about the ending, but if you just watch this, it does feel like, yes, this is a complete narrative, and this movie is so much the better for it. And I gotta say, that is just something that's has been failed in the past, and but this film definitely nailed it on this one. So there's that. Really, all I have to say is the rest of what I'm going to say is going to be spoilery. So for right now, I will just conclude my spoiler-free thoughts by saying, if you're a fan of Tom Cruise stunt, if you like the fact that this series is dedicated to real stunts, not just everything built in a computer and and everything looking fake terribly. I will say that motorcycle stunt, knowing that seeing the behind the scenes. How they shot that shot, the CGI overlay that they did to cover up the fact that they were using a actual built ramp for that stunt, they did over to make it look like the edge of a cliff, a rocky cliff, whatever. That did look a little wonky, maybe just because I was purposefully looking for it that way, but overall, if you're looking for the stunts, if you're looking for great banter between charismatic movie stars, this is the movie for you for this summer. And I'm so glad that we get to that. I believe that they're like 70-80% of the way through filming part 2, so I can't wait for the next summer for this. So if I was going to give Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 a letter grade, I would say this is a solid A. There are a couple little nitpicks in here that brought me out of it that keep me from giving it an A+. But I would definitely give this an A. And as far as my personal ranking of the Mission Impossible franchise, as I said, I rewatched all 6 prior movies before seeing this new one. I would say this is still not the best in my personal opinion. Number 1 is still Ghost Protocol, which was number 4. Number two for me was this is more of a personal choice. I prefer the first Mission Impossible, honestly. Maybe as time goes by, that could have a soft spot for that. And then I would rank Dead Reckoning Part 1 as number 3 in the franchise for me. Followed closely by Fallout at number 4, Rogue Nation at number 5, and then the bottom 2 would be, I would rank Mission Impossible 3 at number 6, and Mission Impossible 2 at number 7. The bottom of the franchise still. So those are my personal rankings for that. And if you agree or disagree with that, let me know in the comments down below. But those are my spoiler-free thoughts on Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Now let's get into some spoiler talk as certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. Now, I feel like, and this may be a purposeful homage or an accidental, osmosis of ideas, but there seems to be a lot of similarities here between this movie and the original Mission Impossible movie, because not only do we have director Kittredge returning from the movies, if I remember right, yeah, he only appeared in the first one, so he's back in this one. That was a interesting development. The role he plays is certainly muddled as any good spy drama is with regard to characters. Whether that works or not, I'm not 100% certain that it works well, but it works enough for my purposes with Kittredge. You also have a more emphasis on misdirection with this movie. I feel like a lot of the other there's misdirections part and parcel with spy dramas and also with Mission Impossible, but I feel like between this movie and the original Mission Impossible, I feel like the misdirection, someone's not who they say they are. The more clever use of the mask work than some others, in my opinion, and also the fact that you have the whole finale is set on a speeding train, and the train. Action happening in the train, happening above the train, having to dodge obstacles from the roof of the train. That's just great symmetry on that front, and that just made me think of the original Mission Impossible from that front. And also, speaking of the train, again, great to see that they actually literally hopped a train off a bridge. But we also have, I feel like we've seen this in a lot of movies with trains, but the almost slapsticky way that Tom Cruise and Haley Atwell having to run up each train as it's coming down, and then it's like, all right, we're safe for that, but no, this one's falling out. All right, you have to go up in this one, and it happens like 3 times. And it just made me think of Toy Story 3 of all things, with the fantasy sequence of was it Buzz or was it Woody? I think it was Woody who was running up the top of the train as it's careening off the bridge, one car at a time, doing that sort of thing. That was just a fun. I know that's been done in other movies, but that was just the one example that popped into my head and brought a smile to my face on that one. Those are maybe points comparisons. Some other spoilery things that really that I kind of wanted to cover. One is I feel like there were some odd editing choices that they made with the flashback sequences, especially specifically in the beginning, because the movie starts with the sub gets tricked by the AI entity or whatever. Which, first of all, the AI entity, interesting development of villains here, certainly tapping into the zeitgeist of where we are as a society and our relationship with AI. Certainly feels more relevant now than it has been in the past. So that was a fun thing. So yeah, the opening sequence, yeah, tricks the sub into killing itself. Great, that's a great opening. Then we get the random, the first Ethan reveal of him coming out of the shadows with the IMF agent doing the food delivery with the should you choose to accept it, this message self-destruct 5 seconds kind of message, giving us all the exposition about Ilsa. It's like, okay, all right, here's where we're gonna get going here, and then he tracks them to the desert and finds Ilsa, and it's like, all right, cool. Then we cut to the briefing of all the various intelligence heads, and it's like, all right, fine. But then not only are they covering a lot of the same material that we just saw, and even cutting back to the same scenes within that, but then not only the guy who comes into the room is very obviously Ethan in a mask. He's not saying anything. He's got these very intense eyes, and it's like, okay, we know it's Ethan. We know it's Ethan. Do whatever it is. Going to pull off the mask. Going to pull off the mask. Going to pull off the mask. He doesn't do it until he throws off those gas bombs or whatever, and then he pulls off the mask in front of Kittredge. How cool would it have been if that had been the first reveal of Ethan in this movie? Because remember, it's been 2018, I think, was Fallout. So it's been 5 years since the last Mission Impossible. How great would it have been if that had been the reveal of Ethan, his back on the screen in this thing, instead of we got kind of a half-hearted reveal before, and then you've got a botched thing with the briefing here. And especially with the line that he's like, "Oh, I have a man going in. He's a ghost. We never know where he's coming from." And then you get the reveal right there. It's like, oh, and then it's like that would have been amazing. But instead, we get that weird. I don't know why they did it that way. That's one of those nitpicks that keep me from giving it an A+ in my opinion. And also, there's one line in this that really stuck in my craw, and I feel like it was from a writer who was. I don't know what they were thinking, and they were probably feeling they were more clever than they are. But it's when the entity is starting to disrupt our communications and our systems. We're working on ahead to hard copy backup of all things, which people think I'm crazy for wanting to keep all of my physical media and keep things on paper. And it's like, there's a reason for these things. They might seem crazy, but yeah, these things can happen. But aside from that, you go into the bunker setting or whatever, where it's like all the more primitive technology, CRT monitors on there, tape reel computing systems going on in there, and the Kittredge is giving the tour or whatever. He's like, oh, no more ones and zeros. You got tape reels and cathode ray tubes. And it's like, does anyone not realize that old computers still use ones and zeros? Like, anyone? Like, that's how computers work. It doesn't matter if it's a computer from the 80s or from the 2020s. They still use ones and zeros. That's how it works. It's like, that just bugged me. That was just a bad, dumb line. And that brought me completely out of the movie for a second. And so, like I said, that's another one of those nitpicks that I had on that. But what did you think of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree, disagree? Did I miss something? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. And be sure to look for my next movie review, which will be next week for Oppenheimer. I'm not personally going to be doing the whole Barbenheimer double feature in the same day kind of thing, but if you're going to do that, awesome. I'll be reviewing Oppenheimer because that's more my wheelhouse. But So look for that coming up soon. If you like this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before.